Good morning, folks. Baz here, of course. There's so much to talk about in the wonderful world of politics and media and all that good shit. So, I like when, you know, I'm starting to enjoy there being naysayers. It's sort of like when you were a kid and you would sit next to your friend or your cousin with the control in your hand and you about to beat their ass in Tekken or whatever, and they don't think it's gonna happen. You keep telling them I'm about to whoop your ass. It's gonna happen, and then the shock on their face when you whoop their ass. Yeah, they never believe it until it happens, and you can sit there and gloat about it afterwards, right? Yeah, good times, good times. Well, so I kind of feel the same way about the entire election, Trump winning and all of that, and but even more so for the media. You know, I be having these debates here and there with my roommate because my roommate is a very far left person, and whenever I talk, whatever I say is a lie. As far as they're concerned, it it's to a point where no matter what you say, as long as you have a conservative lean to the way you see things or your politics, whatever, nothing you say is true to them. Um, that's not just me. That's anyone. If I mention anyone, if they think that person is conservative, that's it. They don't. That person have a voice, and that being that's that, right? And that's usually the attitude you see with a lot of left people. Like if you ever watch Liberty Hang Out with that Caitlyn Bennett chick, um, a lot of times the people that she comes across and tries to have conversations with, they immediately say, "Nah, I don't have a conversation with her. She's conservative," which it's so weird that these same people call us racist, but they don't see how what they're doing is its own form of racism, right? And then they'll make humor out of it. How is it racist? Oh, so you're a MAGA? That's a race now. It's racism. True racism has not necessarily to do with oppression. The oppressive part was introduced into the definition around the time that the movie Dear White People came out. That's when they try to rationalize other ways of racism, how only white people could be racist, not black people. That was their way around it. To get away with being racist towards white people, I mean, be able to say that's not racist. I lost my train of thought. But at the root of it, what racism is holding a prejudice towards a person for their ethnicity, their race, their culture, right? The only difference in this situation is that the prejudice is based off of politics. No different from religion in a way, you know? It's just not it's not racist. Is it politicist? I don't know. But it's still prejudice. It still falls in the same thing. And I've been telling them for a while, like even before the election. So I will say, when it came to the 2020 election, I, along with everyone else, was truly, truly surprised. We all thought that Trump had it in the bag when it came to Biden, and that's why January 6th happened, because we were not convinced that Biden won. That it doesn't it still doesn't make sense that Biden won to begin with. But that being said, when it came to this election versus Kamala, we all knew it wasn't going Kamala's way. Why? Because you read the room. You the media wants to tell you one thing, but when we're living, going day to day lives, and we're going to work, and we're making our way to and from home and all that, and we're going through the neighborhoods in different cities, we see what's becoming of our cities. Where I live is, for the most part, a very liberal city. It's probably the most diverse, it is or was the most culturally diverse city in America for the longest time. I don't know if it still has that title, because now it's now the majority is becoming one or another. It's not as diverse as it used to be. Um, but still, even in these cities, there people start to go Trump because they're starting to see what's happening to them. My roommate doesn't really go out about in the city. He doesn't go out about in this city. He doesn't go out about in NYC. He'll visit here and there, but there's not really going through the city and seeing things. You know what I mean? To see this is what's happening. And so when he will watch the news, and the news is telling you one thing, and then here's me and my uncle were saying that's the news is lying to you. We are out there looking at and seeing this shit happening. Your news is lying to you. No, we're lying. We're lying. We don't know what we're talking about. Whatever. So when it came, um, when Trump won, that in itself proved that the mainstream media, leftist media, was going to hit a decline. The only way that CNN, for instance, was getting their ratings up was by having conversations about Trump. That's the only time people tune in. People don't, because there was a time when CNN was actual news. It was American news from east to west. It was international news, so you were getting to hear what's happening in other countries. It was news. Now it's just this constant political conversation. Um, and also make Trump look bad and make Trump supporters look like these racist, narrow-minded, ignorant people who they're clamoring to this person that they supposedly see as God or Jesus or whatever, which that's none of it. And I've been telling these people for the longest. You're trying to get voted. You're trying to flip people to your side by insulting them. You're never going to convince someone to agree with you by insulting them. Tossing a bunch of you're this phobic, you're that phobic, you're this at me, it's not gonna make me want to agree with you or even hear you. I'm gonna want to ask you what makes you think all these things, sure, but it doesn't make it true, and it's not gonna get me on your side. And people got tired of being called all these things, and rightly so. Who could you imagine going your whole life, showing equal kindness to everyone, not caring not what a person's skin color, a person's skin color or heritage or whatever didn't stop you from, acknowledging them as a coworker or as a friend or as a relative, whatever. And you don't mind if your kids end up dating someone that's a bit different like that you're not. And even though you're like this in general, and you don't have to put any effort into being this way, there still comes this person who says you're racist, just to be mean. It's like, and they don't. Those people who are doing that, they don't understand how much of an insult it is to that individual who, what did I do that's racist. A lot of people sit back and they try to ruminate, like, what did I do that was racist, what did I do that, it really gets to them. I see it happen to my mother all the time. What did I do that was racist? Explain it to me. And it can't be explained to them because it's used just as an insult. It's not. It has no substance behind it anymore. So what I was telling, and this is where I come to saying what's gonna happen, and then watching it happen, even though the naysayers are saying nah, being naysayers, right? I was saying, because of the way news is going downhill, at least for leftist news, MSNBC, CNN, and whatnot, the way they're going downhill, their producers, the people who are the higher ups, are going to start making changes. They're going to start bringing in different people to make different talking points. They're going to start trying to go a little bit more independent, and they're going to start leaning towards the right because their ratings are going down, and they need to make money. You know what I mean? They're in it for the money. At the end of the day, these news stations, all of them, they're only in it for the money. They don't really give a shit what happens. They just want to get paid to have a show. And if going down the left is making them lose money, okay, well, we need to change the directions. It's what makes sense in a business move, right? And so you have your Scott Jennings on CNN, and nowadays the people who are tuning in to CNN are tuning in to see Scott Jennings rip these people apart and make them look stupid. Meanwhile, they keep spinning the wheels, trying to make us all look like we're racist or ignorant or we don't know better. So Joy Reid is one of them, and Joy Reid got fired. Who didn't see it coming? She is just one piece that's coming down. She represents everyone else who spoke like her, who thinks like her, who perpetuates the same bullshit and talking points that she perpetuated. And if anything, she is a warning shot to all the other people who are people on CNN and anyone else that's on MSNBC. We're gonna start getting rid of you people too if you guys keep going along with her narrative. We got rid of her for this reason. We didn't want no more of that. That's those are business moves, man. Those are business moves. And now my roommate and them are deciding they're going to boycott MSNBC now. Him and his friends are saying they're not going to watch no more, never again, just because that's going to be their get back. I wonder how many. Now this is where it's going to be weird, because I wonder how many other leftists are thinking the same thing. You know what I mean? How many leftists are like, yeah, we're gonna boycott this news station because they got rid of Joy Reid. So now the few people that you have left as your viewers drop. What happens when the right picks it up and the right becomes their viewership? You know what I mean? Now they're gonna have to play ball with the right, because right now the right would end up being the ones that are keep giving them ratings. If all their leftists are boycotting because they're upset that Joy Reid was fired, you know, it only makes sense. That's how those pendulums swing. And could you then be mad at the program? We're trying to make a change here. And so the few that we have left, they're leaving. Now a different band is coming. Do we then still capitulate with what that side wanted? Even though now these guys are our new viewers, these guys are the ones that want us. No. I think a lot of it is really interesting. I wonder if like your Bill Maher is next. I think Bill Maher, someone needs to put him in his place. Maybe a Steven Crowder, maybe a Joe Rogan. I often get debates with these people here about Joe Rogan too, because they'll say whenever the name Joe Rogan comes up, like, oh, Joe Rogan, whatever, Joe Rogan, you're just a Joe Rogan fanboy. And I ask him all the time, have you ever seen any of his shows? Do you know who he is? Do you know who he is? Oh yeah, he has a podcast. Okay, now he has a podcast, but dude, that's not all that Joe Rogan is. Do you know anything about him? If you ever watch the podcast, you know that the majority of shit is not even political. The majority of his shit is learning experiences, which is the next part of the irony, because these folks, they like astrology, they like stars and all that. If they're having a string of bad luck, they're basing it off of the alignment of the planets or whatever. And that's the type of shit that Joe Rogan be talking about. He be getting scientists to go up on his panel, on his podcast, and have these in-depth conversations about what's happening in the universe and whatnot. That's brilliant. That's the reason why I tuned into him to begin with. And he was, for the most part, actually pretty left-leaning. You know, it's pretty progressive to be pro-weed, pro-DMT, pro-mushrooms and shit, pro-psychedelics. That's not a conservative standpoint. But people who never watch them don't know that. So then we have people here who make comments, and it only further illustrates like how out of touch they become. And how do you shake someone back into the reality of that's not the world we're in right now? Like that's not what it is. But I think Joy Reid getting fired was one of those. It's a start. It's no different from Don Lemon getting fired, right? Except I think in some way Joy Reid was a little bit more, because she gotta let that angry black woman speak, get her mind off. All right. You're gonna have people who will try to pick up and carry the torch. That Blossom dude is one of them. I think people need to stop giving him a platform and stop listening to him. If you are a conservative debater, a Michael Knowles, a Charlie Kirk, or whatever, don't entertain the person no more. I think that's all a stunt. I think it's all just an act just to get money for doing this shit. I think he, along with some other people, might realize, shit, I could do some bullshit, pretend I'm a girl, and get paid just to spout this rhetoric and be annoying and be obnoxious, and people pay just to see that shit because that's sensationalism, that's entertainment. You know, I just see it as a Tyler Perry playing an act, a TikTok Tyler Perry playing an act. Which leads me into the next one. There was a hearing, maybe about a week and a half ago, maybe a week ago, and there was several people who came from the transgender community, and I don't know if it was senators they were talking to or congressmen, but they were all screaming and they're all expressing how their lives are in danger now, and they're being told they don't exist, and they're this is what's happening to them here in America is what happened to the Jews during the Holocaust. And I'm just thinking, what? How did you guys make such leaps and bounds? Statements. How did you get so far? Who's attacking you in today's society? Verbal. If someone's saying something mean to you verbally, that's is it not nice? Sure, it's mean, but it's not like it's not really being attacked. You know. In the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, there were gay bashings, legit gay bashings, people who would get beaten up just for being, you know. And the sad part is in those times, not just as much as it's sad for someone to get beaten up for that, what's even sadder is the amount of people who would never get involved, wouldn't stop it from happening, you know. But we still kind of had that today. So we see someone getting beat up, and instead of helping that person survive and get through it, we just pull out the camera and start recording the shit for clicks, right? But what was happening during the 90s and whatnot, it's not happening today. If it does, it's a really, really, really small percentage. It's really, really tiny. And I say that because if it happened, it would hit the news. You know what I mean? Most news is left-leaning. So the moment they hear about someone who's getting beat up or stomped on or attacked just because of their sexuality, just because they dress in drag and all that, that would be one of their frontline news. That would be something that they would bring up in a talking point, saying, see, this is still happening. But it hasn't been, right? No one's being attacked for it. And if anything, that does show that a progressive step forward was made, in which people really don't care what your sexuality is, who you take to bed. It's not their business. They may not agree with it for themselves. And some of them may not want to have those types of people as friends, right or wrong. But it doesn't mean that they're going out of their way to attack you. So that's one, yeah. The identity part. I don't think people who are going through that really know their identity. I think they're just trying new things, and there is a mental health crisis. And my take from when I saw that trial and all those people screaming, none of it was mature. None of it was adult. None of it was, like a grown person stating points and reasons why they're upset, or what's being attacked, or what's being wrong on them. If anything, it sounded like teenagers who were like, I don't know, complaining to their mothers and fathers for not letting them put the gel in their hair that turns their hair green or red, or getting mad at them for putting on a lot of eyeliner or listening to rock. Like it really didn't sound any different from someone who, you just don't understand me. You just don't understand my music. You don't understand how I feel. That angsty teenager punk rock phase. Like that's my takeaway from it. And in those regards, is it identity? Do you need to make it your identity? Can it just be like one of those things that's about you? Like, I remember having this conversation with an old coworker, because he's not pro LGBT, and I'm not pro it either, but I'm not against it. And I think it was a topic about like gay ball players, like basketball players and football players, and he was bothered by the thought that someone might be like what you call closet. And I'm thinking, like, what does it matter? The guy plays ball. Why does it matter? If he's not making it, if he's playing ball just to play ball, that's all there's to it, right? If he's not making his sexuality a part of the ball playing, or if he's not, trying to get attention for it, if he's not flaunting it and making a big, performance out of it, then why does it matter? Until someone pointed it out, you wouldn't have known. And chances are there's a lot of them who are living their lives regular, because it's just your sexuality. Your sexuality doesn't have to dictate and mandate how your overall lifestyle and your style in general is going to be. Like, I think A lot of people were given a misconception that gay guys would turn around and end up being these all these flamboyant and I guess the queen, is that what it's called? Queens, y'all know what I mean. Um, it almost seems like that's the way it is, where someone comes out and suddenly they're getting a lisp and they're bending their wrists and they're doing all that. But then you have plenty of gentlemen who it's not their, it doesn't create their lifestyle, isn't generate how they're gonna talk and how they're gonna dress and all that. It's just their personal choice when they're in their privacy of their home, And that was my argument for that. And so likely so the same way, I guess with trans is different because you want to change your whole whatever to be the other side, which is unfortunate. Enjoy being a girl. I feel bad for Ellen Page, because if only she realized how beautiful she was as a girl. Now she looks like she's destroyed herself and she's hanging on, and she's miserable about it, but doesn't want to look like she's miserable about it. Like, she doesn't look any happier now than she did before. If there's no reason to mutilate yourself, there's no reason to change any of that. You're fine just the way you are. I think a lot of the LGB are getting tired of it. There's lesbians who are tired of being called transphobic because they don't want to date trans women. They're lesbians. They're attracted to femininity, and I think the same duly so for if they're dating a woman who decides that that woman wants to be more masculine. Well, the woman fell in love with you for, I guess, your feminine traits, and I think those women will be right to be like, yeah, I don't know if I want to do this, and that happens to teenagers too. Before this whole thing, before Trump came in office and righted those wrongs, that was happening to teenage girls. If anything, the teenage girls are the most impressionable. There's a lot of teenage girls who would do the dumbest things just to be just to fit in, just to get someone's approval. Could you imagine in today's society when this thing is being made a trend, being gay, being bi, being trans, this is being trended versus just being someone's own personal choice. It's becoming like a fad. So now this girl, because she wants to fit in with this group, decides she wants to try the lesbian thing. She wants to try being bi or being with chicks, and now the girl that she's with or whatever, so why don't you look more like a guy? I don't know. Or maybe that lesbian or that other girl is more attracted, is somewhat attracted to guys. Now the other girl is thinking, well, shit, if I want to keep this girl, I need to be a little bit more guyish. Now she goes through this big old surgery, gets top surgery. Now she has a regular chest, and then that lesbian girlfriend that she had says, yeah, you know what? I'm not interested in you no more. Now that girl made a big old change in her life just to fit in with this moment and with this child and this teenager at this moment. Like, it sounds silly how I'm breaking it down, but shit like that does happen. There are girls who end up pregnant just because they got the attention of a guy and they want to keep the attention of the guy, and they thought, spreading their legs would keep them. What would stop a girl from deciding, what, I want this girl to stay with me, and she keeps looking at guys. If I look like a guy, maybe she'll stay with me. Like, it does happen. Teenagers, especially when it's young love, teenagers do stupid shit for young love. They really, really do. What was the other thing that I wanted to bring up? Something that keeps slipping my mind, but I keep getting into these tangents and holding on to them. But that was the last one. The person who compared the shit at the trial, the one who compared what's apparently happening to the transgenders being what happened to the Jews in the Holocaust. And I gotta wonder, how come the Jews aren't up in arms about that? How come the Jews aren't pissed? Like, how fucking dare you compare what you guys are doing today to the Holocaust, or anything of what your lifestyle is, to what happened during the Holocaust. Like, that is the biggest slap in the face. How fucking dare you? What people are being dragged out of their homes just for being trans and having numbers, serial numbers, tattooed onto their forearms before being shipped off to concentration camps, working, starving, eventually killed via gas chamber. We don't have that going on here, not that I know of. Maybe is it happening on the ground that we don't know? Do the transgenders have like an inside tip that we don't know about? Is there concentration camps happening and the most of us are none the wiser? It's not the same thing. No one's eradicating you. No one's going out of the way to massacre or murder no transgender people. That don't even make sense. You gotta wonder, like, how come the people at the hearings let them say all that shit? Like, do you stop and hear yourself? Like, you ever, when you were a kid, you ever have one of those moments that they kind of replay in your head even as you grow up? Everyone else forgot about the moments, but you remember the moment. And when you remember the moment, you greet that moment with a touch of like embarrassment. I know what I do. There's a few moments during childhood and early teen years where I've like done dances in front of a crowd. And at the time I thought I was doing something cool, but like 5 minutes later afterwards, or 10 minutes later afterwards, I realized, I probably look silly, and that embarrassment is still stuck. Now the rest of the crowd and everyone else, they forgot all about it. They forgot all about it. But with me, I still remember it. So sometimes you have that little, nostalgic embarrassment for the moment. I wonder if those people get the same thing. Do they get to see how they looked? Do they get to see the video, the news clip of how they looked when they were screaming at other people's faces, and how crazy it is to see someone who looks like them do what they're doing? Like, we're not against people being different. We're really not. The interesting part is, like, the people who are kind of running Congress now, I think the youth forget that these people were young upon a time. You know what I mean? That rock and roll and hip hop and all that shit didn't start in 2020. You know what I mean? It's not. These things aren't new. Fucking Woodstock was what, in the 60s, wasn't it? 70s, 60s? I don't know. I wasn't there. I wasn't born yet. But my point being, y'all get what I'm saying, is they all know what angsty, rebellious spirit looks like. But there is a way to express yourself. There is a way to make yourself heard without looking crazy. You know what I mean? Be a proper representation of your side of things. Screaming at people, that does. If I went to one of them, yeah, and I was trying to get my message across to them. Now, maybe I'm doing something wrong when I speak to the camera here. Maybe that's why I'm not getting views. Maybe if I was yelling at the camera, being outrageous and being annoying and obnoxious, I would actually get views, because people click into that type of shit. It's true. But my take on things is always, I don't like when people yell at me to get their point across. Like, you could speak to me like a human being and I'll hear you just fine. I may not agree with everything you have to say, but I will be able to hear and understand it for the most part, right? So if I don't like being yelled at, I can't imagine someone else likes to be yelled at. So I can imagine that if I went to one of them and started screaming my point at them, that they wouldn't actually want to hear it. Or maybe some people like that, maybe those people, that's only the way they do know how to communicate, is through heavy, wild, extreme emotions versus, just sitting down and having a conversation like a normal person does. I don't know. I'm pretty sure if it's their friends and people who agree with them, they have no problem chumming it up, chatting it up, sharing thoughts. As long as those thoughts, align. You can't really disagree with them. You're not allowed to disagree with them. That's an odd bend. How do you expect to function in America if you can't stand to deal with people who disagree with you? Like, I think that was one of the first things you learn as a child, is everyone has their own opinion. 5 years old, Power Rangers was the shit. Power Rangers, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was the shit. That was all over the place. And you know what? I hated Tommy. Rest in peace to the fellow who played him. But I don't care. I never liked Tommy. Never liked the Green Ranger. Never liked the White Ranger. every other kid in school, every other boy in school, like the Green Ranger, like the White Ranger, they all were Tommy fanboys. I hated Tommy. Something about him looked like a weasel to me. Something about him altogether looked untrustworthy. Maybe it was because he came off, he joined in as a villain, and he had a perfect Weasley face to play the villain role, that he never stopped being a villain to me. But even as growing up, never liked Tommy. So while everyone else was clamoring to be Tommy fans, I didn't give a shit. You couldn't pressure me, even as a child, even as a 5-year-old. You couldn't pressure me out of being a fanboy for my favorite. And I thought Jason was cooler. I thought Jason and Zach were much cooler. The black and white combo was cool to see in action, and I agreed. Even when those two were replaced by Adam and the brother who played Rocky, I still like those two, seeing those two in action over seeing Tommy in action. I hated Tommy. I couldn't stand Tommy, but the popular opinion never swayed me. You know, we all get to have our different opinions. And you learn early on that not everyone's gonna agree with you. Not everyone's gonna agree with what you like, and that's okay. That's really okay. Popular opinion is easy. Dragon Ball Z is the shit. And I'm not gonna lie, when I started drawing with Dragon Ball Z. Well, I didn't start with that. That's where I sort of took a leap into really trying to draw. And Dragon Ball Z was pretty easy to draw because it's a lot of big round shapes. But once you've perfected it, you realize how disproportionate the style is. Or at least early '90s DBZ, the bodies were so out of proportion and horrible. Like I'm talking like the hands didn't go past the waist. The shoulders were just way wide. This fucking square shaped eyes. As a kid, seeing it as a cartoon is cool and all that. But I used to draw, and I always wanted to be better at the drawing. And then I think I got used to drawing Dragon Ball Z. I would try to draw what was actually my favorite things: Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. Scorpion will always be like my favorite video game character, number one. And I would try to draw Scorpion, but I was so used to the Dragon Ball Z style of art that I ended up drawing him in that style, and I hated it. I couldn't stand it. I didn't. And that's when I realized I don't like Dragon Ball Z style, and that's what we're allowed to have differing opinions. Everyone else will disagree with me. There's a lot of anime fans who will look at me saying, "You stupid, you stupid. Dragon Ball Z is great. Goku is the greatest," and I'm just saying he could be the greatest. I hate the art, so I'm never gonna watch it. I'm the same way with a lot of anime. Most anime, if the art is too cheesy or too disproportionate, I'm not interested in it. I don't know, it doesn't resonate with me. I don't like it. I like proportionate and accurate art. We're allowed to have our differing opinions, you know? And I'm not going to shout my opinion at someone about DBZ, Dragon Ball Z, for them to understand my side of things, whether they agree with me or not. And so I gotta wonder, how do these people expect to get their opinions across to people if they're just shouting at them and just cussing at them? You're speaking to a bunch of people. The power of the pen is I had this conversation yesterday, and the power of the pen is truly mightier than everything else. The people who write the laws, the people who are banging the gavel, the people who they're the ones that we the people should have power, but we're not united like we should be, so we don't have power. So when those people go up at that podium and start shouting at all these people, cussing at them, and you're putting us all in danger, and you're sending us to a Holocaust, and you're doing all this to us. You think any of those people want to hear that? You think you moved any of them who enjoy you think any of them like being yelled at? All these older people who are seeing how crazy and angsty you look, you think they all we're gonna appease what you're saying just because you came up here and started screaming at us. It's not how it works. I think it's just gonna fall down into being a niche group. But I do think people need to be careful, and I do hope that Trump gets a grip on the education system, especially when it comes to teaching kids transgenderism and all that. Yeah. I think what people are trying to teach to kids can be taught without um, giving them so much information, giving them so much detail. I don't agree with introducing kids to the adult side of the world. I think once you take in a child who is innocent and show them anything that has to do with sexuality, like sex, people, I think they understand romance when they see their when kids see their mother and father kiss. They know that their mother and father love each other. We see it in some movies, we see it in cartoons. We know what romance and man and woman is. But when you show them pornographic pictures of it, you've now introduced them to something. You now put something thoughts into their heads that they don't need to have. A 9-year-old, 10-year-old boy does not need to be looking across his classroom at his fellow classmate and wondering and comparing his classmate to what he sees in these little pictures books that you guys are giving him. And I don't know if maybe they think that because it's drawings, that they're cartoon drawings in these little books, that it makes it okay. Because let's be real, if you were a parent and you left a Playboy magazine on your coffee table in the middle of the living room and your kids came across it, child services would be at your house because you left pornographic material out. Is the difference because because that pornography shows real people versus cartoons? So if it was just drawings, would it make a difference? Would that be okay? Because that's my takeaway from they're saying it's okay to give these kids these colored books, these picture books, because they're not real images, they're fake images. Well, there's a slippery slope to that, right? I think I discussed in a previous video the furry worlds and how they be going down those slippery slopes. And for the most part, the furry world is very adult. I wish it wasn't so. My own furry character, the one that I draw, is supposed to be a warrior. I wasn't trying to go down the sexual aspect of it. I like the concept of like animal warriors. But I'm also a video game nerd, and we grew up with that, right? But the furry world, for the most part, is very, very adult. Everyone else, they're yeah, and it's all different types of gimmicks of it. It's all different types of gimmicks. Every type of kink and fetish you could think of is made a gimmick out of. Characters are created off these gimmicks. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of communities. There's a lot of like art portfolio websites and chat groups and whatnot that allow you to engage with other people. And some of these sites, some of these art portfolios are okay with minors in them joining. Now, I myself don't engage with any minor that's online. If I know a person is a minor, I immediately block them just to avoid any altercation. It took me by surprise some years ago when I had a conversation about this in a game that I used to play in an MMO, and I remember it popping up that some one of the players said their name, and I immediately blocked them, and the rest of the crowd started yelling at me like, "What's wrong with you? Why would you do that?" Because they're on their age. I had no reason to be talking to this kid. They were all pissed at me. I don't care. But when it comes to the art communities, so maybe just one or two of them. I know DeviantArt doesn't allow anything that's too graphic to begin with, and they're not about to allow new children. There's another art group, another art portfolio that also doesn't allow pictures of naked kids or drawings. I don't mean pictures because no site allows pictures, but drawings and images, whether it's 3D or sketched or whatever. Overall, they don't allow any uploads of images depicting kids being naked or engaging in certain acts. But that's only few. There's only one or two sites that are like that. The rest of them don't care. The rest of them don't care. The rest of them don't see anything wrong with it because it is a drawing, right? The same exact attitude that is being had in the schools, and this is where I'm trying to bridge this point, because with the schools, because the books that they give the kids showing these things to the kids is all drawn. It's not actual photographs. They think it's okay. Well, that's the same attitude on the other side where they show drawings of acts happening to kids because it's all drawings and they because it's not real. It must be okay. That's where that slippery slope is created because you gave them a little bit here in school. Well, they have internet. They could go home and hopefully their parents are on top of them, and maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Some they may know where to keep a lookout, and don't know where not to, like, or where to, like. I don't think many parents really don't understand the furry community. So when their kids say that they're furries, I don't think their parents understand like what their kids are being exposed to, and that's why I keep making these videos to try to get the word out there. And I'm not getting the hits I need to get, but I have to wonder, like, are they gonna get rid of those books that are in the schools? I think they should, because that's gonna be what happens. It's that slippery slope from the books into actual furry art and all that nudity and whatnot in those images. Um, I remember my first time actually being introduced to hentai. Um, I knew it existed. By the time I had internet, I knew certain things exist. Like I knew they made like videos and images of like old cartoons, old superheroes and whatnot. But that during that time, internet porn wasn't free like it is now. Like now, you could look up anything and find anything. Back then, it really wasn't. There was a lot of paywalls. And I was a teenager, so I didn't have a credit card. Couldn't make it past those paywalls. Never got to see those things, right? And they end up just falling out of interest because for me there was other things to do. I'm an artist. I like to create. I don't like to sit back and watch. So I like to be building something, designing something, drawing something, creating something. Even the games I create, uh, even the games I play, that has some type of creativity in them. So those things never held my attention for very long. When it came to watching animes or cartoons, I will put them on, but then they will be placed in the background as background noise while I'm, you know, doing something else, drawing, writing something, whatever, creating something. But so there was a girl in high school, and she was a really good artist. She used to draw anime style art, and she was pretty good. She was really really good. I give her credit. And considering how old she was back then when she was drawing like that, if she still kept at it to today, she's probably phenomenal. She's probably better than most anime artists are. Like she was good back then. She's probably sick nice right now. I'll give her flowers. I'm not gonna put any names out because I'm not trying to put her on the spot, but I will say if you know who you are and your art was killer. I can only imagine what your art looks like now. Some 20 years later, that shit must look phenomenal. Hats off to you. However, she was the one who introduced me to hentai, and yeah, that shit turned my stomach. There was rape in it. That was one of those first images of what you would call a dick girl. Futsunari, hermaphrodite, all that, whatever. A girl who has a penis attached to her. And there was rape involved. It was sacrificial, ritualistic rape, and it just turned my stomach. I never watched any hentai ever again. I swear on everything. It's not my thing. Anime already not being, well, for one, I don't know. Cartoon porn just doesn't have the same pull. It's not real. So it's just, I don't know how anyone gets off on it. I don't know how, I guess there's a market for everything, but to me, I could never understand how people get off on it because none of it's real. It's all drawn and it all looks weird. Like their shapes. I don't just mean down their shapes. I mean their overall shapes. Like when they draw anime, the lips be like. I mean, I know my lips are tiny, but their lips be like, Hitler mustache tiny. Like their lips be tiny, tiny, and then their eyes be huge. Like anime, I never got into it. I always had a hard time. So to give me a cartoon that the art style I already didn't like, and tried to pick something out of it, it wasn't doing it for me. And for the most part, anime hentai does that to me. It does. It looks stupid to me. I hate most anime. That's not nice of me to say that, but I just like in most anime in general. But that was my first introduction to it, and because I created because I had a distaste to it from the very beginning. Going forward, I never pursued it. Um, when commissioned to, when paid for, I will draw certain things. I'm not against that. I don't think there's anything wrong with artistic nudity, um, drawing certain depictions of certain things. Um, but again, it's usually when it was paid for. It's not my favorite thing to draw. I prefer I like dynamic poses. I like actiony scenes because I mean I grew up on cartoons, Batman, Beast Wars. Wasn't much of a Spider-Man kid. X-Men, absolutely. You know what I mean? And that was that was a big inspiration for my art. Is all those warrior, ninja, fighter, superpower shows and video games I played. And so whenever I draw something, I like for it to look like something that's actually well. When I draw dudes, I like for it to look actiony. I like for it to look like they're kicking ass, they're slaying, they're flying to the sky, they're destroying shit. With girls, I like femme fatales. I will draw them a little seductive, but I do like the femme fatale style. And I do think there is a way to create sex appeal and lovely aesthetics while a woman is still covered up. Catwoman was one of my favorite female characters, and probably for the same reason, because I mean she was all covered up. It may be a latex suit, but she was still all covered up. You couldn't see no skin. And yet, to me, she's the most badass of all characters in comics. From Marvel to DC, Catwoman is number one. No one can tell me nothing. And she'll never have to show no skin to be number one. You know, I do like Femme Fatale. But again, my art isn't the popular art. It is the art that's popular is the art that's showing a lot of sex. The sex artists get a lot of hits. They get Patreons. I can't hate on them for it. They're making their money where they have it. They do what's called your character here's, where they draw a sketch of like a pose, and then they'll have someone pay like $20 to $40, and they'll fill in that pose with the person's ideal character, given details on what to draw, but the person's character is gonna be fit into that already predetermined pose, and they'll use that pose again and again and again, which I can't hate on them because it's a hustle, right? But I don't know. I how do I say? It's an artist, and they took one pose and they drew it 20, 30, 40, 50 times, again and again and again, just different people. For artists, that's a lot of work. It's a lot of experience. It's good money for them. Can't hate on that. But I gotta wonder, how does it translate to the person who buys it when, you know, the only thing original about the picture, the only thing that's unique is their character that's in it. The pose in itself is not original, and chances are the artist used similar art styles for each other character they drew. So if 2, 3, 4, 5 of them all wanted a wolf character to be drawn in that pose, chances are those 5 different wolves have very, very similar features to each other, just based off of the artist's style of drawing. And then you tack in, the different individual details. But for the most part, it might look like the same person, just redone in 5 different ways. I gotta wonder how the artist, how the commissioner feels about that when they receive the art, and they're happy to have their picture, but you also have 19 other people who have the same piece. Whenever I did commission for people, if you commission me for an art piece, what I draw for you, I'm not drawing for anyone else. The pose, the character, nothing. It's what you get from me is original through and through. No one else. I don't do the your character here. Maybe I'm shooting myself in the foot by not doing that. But I like for people to have that feeling of this is mine, and no one can say that it's theirs or have something similar. Because I want them to feel that authenticity. I don't know. Maybe it's a different type of pride, different type of standards for art. Maybe in that I'm holding myself back and I'm doing it wrong. I really went off into a tangent here. This is turning into a 50-minute video, so I should probably get ready to cut it off because I went from politics to transgenderism to art to the furry world and all that. It's a lot of rambling. Key points to take away. I'm happy that Joy Reid is being fired. I wonder if CNN is gonna, take that as a warning, like, I wonder if our producers and our executives are gonna start thinking about doing the same thing with our people if we don't tighten our ship up a little bit, because what we've been spewing is not what the people are feeling. We're not reading the room, and people are getting tired of it. We're losing viewers, and in order to make money to pay these people to have their nice little salaries working at this news station, we have to pull in money. So something's gonna have to give, right? Stop teaching your kids that transgender shit. If you see that shit in your kids what you call a syllabus, if you see any of that in any of them books come home, get rid of it, man. Stand up. Keep your kid innocent. Don't let them go down that. I feel so bad for so many of them kids' minds. How many kids, a whole generation of kids whose minds were poisoned by this shit, straight up poisoned, and we're not going to realize it for another 5 years. Oh man, we just created a whole another wave of issues for ourselves just in the last 4 years. So yeah, be on top of that. If your kid is getting into furry shit, be on top of their shit, man. Whatever they're doing with the furry world, whoever their furry friends are, know who they're talking to at all times. Stay involved. Maybe do your own research on what furries are. Even if it bothers you, even if some of it may turn your stomach, it's worth seeing and understanding and knowing. My mother was like that with us. We listened to music, and she listened to. We didn't have any, and I wasn't into furry shit as a kid. I didn't know about furries until I was like 15, 16 years old. So as a kid, it wasn't really a thing. But what our interests were when it came to like music and whatnot, she made it her interest. So if I was listening to DMX or Ja Rule or whoever, my mother was listening to it as well, because she wanted to know what was being said in these songs. Be invested. Know what's going on. Know what your kid is absorbing. Know what they're learning. Because they're learning a lot more than you think they are especially through the internet and these different art circles. And with the furry world, shit goes crazy. Shit goes really, really crazy. Things go really, really dark, and you have no idea. Do your research. Please do your research. I'm gonna call it an end for now, because I've been talking for a minute and I still gotta upload this. So yeah, have a good one. Be well. Baz out.